Hugh, great to see you again. We go way back, don't we?
Yeah, we do, Andre. I think I was thinking this the other night, and I think it's 21, 22 years.
You've come into this role in the last six weeks, but before that, you were a supporter like the rest of us. Yeah. Has that frustration, you understand kind of where supporters are, were you experiencing that frustration, that disappointment like the rest of us?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm 40 years a supporter. And
long suffering.
Yeah. Well, it's actually brought me so much joy, sort of over those 40 years, even playing for Ulster, being involved, bringing through, and being associated coaching your generation at underage, managing Ulster for several years, along with Davy Miller, and then being chair of the academy. But throughout all that time, I've always been a supporter. I've stood on the terrace, I've been in the stand, and I've been a passionate supporter. And I can understand that frustration. I mean, I've spent I haven't been involved, I haven't had a role, but I've spent a lot of the last year, 15 months, 18 months, trying to understand why I remember the Leinster game, 19-0 up after 25, 30 minutes, and ripping Leinster apart. Nobody does that, ripping them apart. And then, with Cian Healy sending off, and Leinster clawing their way back and winning that game. And we've had some good performances, but up to that point I felt we'd been on 3 years where we get stronger every year for 3 years. And that's stopped. Now, these are still young players. Why? And I think we have to create the conditions so that those players develop again. And they haven't become, it's not that they're playing badly. But we're not seeing that upward curve, that continual improvement, and so I think some great early starts with Richie there, and sort of we're seeing, I think, particularly we saw it with the Stormers, people playing with their heads up, playing with a good degree of freedom, trying things. There was a lot more freedom and almost safety the way the players were playing. But it's early days, and we have to make sure that we continue to develop, and the players and the coaches develop month on month, season on season over the next 5 years. And I think the foundations are there, and I see this as part of my role in the next 6 months, is to create the foundations for for this group of players to be successful over the next 5 years.
So what's the priority? This is a week when Leinster, just off the back of hammering the double European champions, hammering them out of sight, and then announcing a couple of re-signings, and then announcing Jody Barrett. Yeah. I mean, I suppose Ulster supporters are going, that's not even on our radar. That is that achievable, or is anything like that achievable? And if it is, what's the priority to getting us there, and how long will it take, I suppose?
It's when you look at what they're doing, it just seems like a different planet. But and even you look at the last 2 weeks playing in France in the Challenge Cup have cost us probably £130,000 loss in terms of those 2 trips. Whereas Leinster are playing on the back of a packed out Aveva and then Croke Park. So the impact on what they can do and their finance and their budget is massive. But if you look at World Rugby, with the exception of Japan, where the game is growing and there seems to be endless money, possibly some areas of France where the owner is putting money in, but the rest of World Rugby is finding things financially challenging. So we're no different. We've seen our sort of playing budget drop by probably 10 or 15% over the last 2 seasons. That's sort of some of the changes people can see. But I go back to, we have the foundations. Lots of other clubs in different countries would give their right arm to have the foundations we have in terms of the young players coming in, the number of sort of Irish under 20 players, lead Irish under 20 players that have come through our academy system that are breaking into the team earlier than they would have done probably in your day. I mean, it was, I remember the likes of Chris Henry, it was probably in his mid-20s before he was breaking in. We're seeing Scott Wilson, we're seeing James McNabney, we're seeing sort of Harry Sheridan, boys like that breaking in at a much younger age and much better physically developed. So I think the really exciting thing is we keep building those players. We focus on what we can do, create the right conditions, create the right coaching team, create the right culture where people are growing and developing. And I hope the fans get that and the supporters, which I am, buy into this journey, because I think over the next 5 years we will see us go up and up, and let's see where the journey takes us. I think it's exciting. Sponsors, supporters, everybody can buy into this, because this is our home club. This is the one professional team in Ulster, playing sport. It's the team that probably represents who I am. It represents my identity when they go on the pitch. So let's get behind it and enjoy this journey.
A lot of spectators and supporters, season ticket holders, I suppose, will find it very hard to imagine a rosy future when Billy Burns is gone, Stephen Kitsoff, the iconic World Cup winner, he was the one everybody was getting excited about last year. He's moved on. It's first of all, what's going to happen at 10, I suppose, with Billy Burns moving on? Is there something in place there? Can we expect a signing at 10, or what's that situation looking like?
Well, I think it's not just the supporters. I think when we look at our squad, we want to strengthen it in places where we feel we can be stronger, particularly in depth. We have as of next season, we have two young, very talented 10s, which we have to create the space to grow. But we'll continue to look at how we can strengthen the squad, and we'll look at every opportunity to do that. Not just in 10, but elsewhere. Yeah, and you mentioned the people going out of the squad. We've lost 7. Our average over the last 5 or 6 years has been 7 players go at the end of the season. We have 7 players going at the end of this season and 2 retirements. So it's not out of step, but yes, I think we're seeing signs of or the playing out of our budget reduced by 10 or 15%. That's happening to many clubs across the rugby world. What they don't have is this generation of players coming through, and that's if we didn't have that, things would look a lot more bleak. Whereas actually, I think we get round them, we grow those players. The future is exciting.
There's some suggestions from supporters that it feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect from what's going on the pitch and the community, the grassroots community that's kind of the foundation of this club.
Yeah.
How do we get back to really establishing those connections again?
I want, and I've made it very clear, that I want the supporters to have a voice. I'm looking at, for instance, I'm on Friday, I'm doing a Q&A and with season ticket holders, and it's not a one-off. We want to have, I want to have that engagement and fan zones and sort of other forums so that we have that connection. But one of the things we are going to do in the next 6 months is in terms of and I talked about laying the foundations in the next 6 months for the next 2 or 3 seasons. We're going to develop a strategy for Ulster Rugby, and I want the supporters to feed into that. I want them to help shape that. We're dependent on them. They've been tremendous servants. This ground is always, sort of fuller than comparable teams. It's always, when this place rocks, it's like nowhere else. And the supporters create that. But they're going to be part of this sort of rebirth and growth. And it's the impact they have is real. Every time, I think it's roughly 250 season tickets equals 1 player. So if we get another 1,000 people buying season tickets. That gives us the money to buy 3 or 4 players.
World Cup winners?
Well, they have to fit the profile of what we need. And you look back at who've been the best, sort of servants we've had. They're actually probably people that have been great players, but they've also been great mentors. They've been great sort of leaders to build our local players around. You look at the Johan Mullers, you look at the Ruan Pinars. The ones who really made a difference were the ones who helped our local players to grow. And whatever we do, we've got to make sure when we bring players in, they fit that mould. And I think they, in many cases, they have done. We've got it right at times, but what we've got to do is make sure we get it right, as much as we possibly can.
So I suppose financially then, it is realistic that those types of decisions can be made and we can get that sort of a calibre of player. Alongside, financial support for the academy, for the women's game, for domestic rugby. I suppose where's the priority, or where's most important?
You can't sort of rank them, because for me they're all important. When I look at my sort of the list of priorities, I'm 2 weeks in. I think we said I was 6 weeks in. This is my second full week, and what does Ulster Rugby do, and what's its mission or its aim? And I think it's to bring joy and success to people through rugby in Ulster, and that starts with the participation, and from sort of right through from grassroots, from schools, from youth, from then into clubs. Women's rugby, fastest growing sport in these islands, and the way that it has taken off, I think is phenomenal. And I often, when I was talking to people in other sports when I'm away doing, sort of in my professional life, I always used to take this great pride that rugby was the one game where there was a place on the pitch for it. Didn't matter what size and shape you were. Everybody had a place on a rugby pitch. But actually, when you reflect on it, going back, only 50% of the population had that chance. Women's rugby is correcting that. That actually this can be a game for everyone, every gender, every ability, and that has to be a priority, that it's an inclusive game for all. So that participation piece, that access to the joy that rugby brings, has to be for everyone. The pinnacle of that, of course, is the professional game, but that is built on the clubs and the pathway into the professional game. We've talked a lot about what needs done there. I also want to hear from clubs, from supporters, about how we can improve the grassroots, what needs to be done. But clubs, for instance, the levelling up monies, we're getting 5 million, that 29 clubs will get their facilities improved. We're making bids now for tens of millions of pounds of grant or government money to try and strengthen the facilities and the stadium here and facilities right across the province, because we have to be, it is that back to, we want to bring joy and success for everyone that plays rugby.
Obviously, last summer the decision was made to install a 3G pitch here at Kingspan. Ulster Rugby is a traditional supporter base, and the idea of not playing rugby on grass is doesn't make sense to some people.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of guys who've been outspoken, pretty vocal about this. What was the business case for that decision, and where does that sit now with you?
Okay, I mean, I've seen the whole, the heat that's generated in social media and the views, and you're right, some people feel very strongly about it. Everybody I've spoken to that's seen the business case, been involved in it, understanding the decision-making process, believes it is the right one. If you look at us traditionally, we don't produce sort of massive big forwards and play a sort of physical style of rugby which is about physical domination. We want a fast track. We want a space where we can use our feet and our pace and our skill to beat the opposition. So from that point of view, it suits the style of rugby we will largely want to play now and in the future. The other thing is, though, this isn't just about the professional game. This is the home of Ulster Rugby. We will have 12 finals here, either just taking place or about to take place. So that's, when you tot that up, that's over 400 to 500 players that will come out onto this pitch to play at the home of Ulster Rugby and be given that chance. They wouldn't on a grass pitch. So this pitch enables more members of our community who play rugby to come here and play at the Kingspan or Ravenhill. And I think that's something that's been lost in all of this. And I think it's in terms of including our supporters, our clubs, our schools, our youth teams, that they also have the opportunity to come here. Grass pitch, they wouldn't. This pitch, they do.
Is Ulster Rugby in a position where we can invest in new areas and commit resources? I mean, and people out there, no one will have the full picture, but the optics are, okay, getting rid of a few players, it looks like financially things are difficult. Are they that difficult, or what can you tell us there? Either getting rid of players, I think any of the players that are leaving have been tremendous servants. I think they've come here, they've wanted to give their all, and some of them have been here for several years or many years, and have put their bodies on the line. They've gone out there, they've played to the best of their ability, and in many cases played really well. They've supplemented our local players, so I think they need our heartfelt congratulations and thanks for everything they've done for Ulster Rugby. As I've said, in terms of the finances, yeah, I mean, World Rugby is everywhere is facing a sort of more challenging time financially. So we have to be very smart and clever about how we use our money, and we have to make sure that we get the maximum for it. And so I think what you've seen over the last period of time is how do we, in terms of the best playing squad we can get, it's got to be built around growing and improving our own. Yeah. And then, yes, we will always look to supplement that. And it's just people, I suppose, are, just with English sides going out of business, and Ulster supporters panic. Ulster supporters go, okay, could that be us?
Listen, this year has been bad, a bad year financially. I don't think that that's any surprise to anyone. I'm here 2 weeks. The prospect of us going out of absolutely not. Supporters will be here in 10 years' time. I intend to be in that terrace in 10 years' time.
Our last watching, legs.
Yeah, with my walking stick. So do I have any concerns with that? No, I don't. I think we have to be completely in charge of the finances so that we're achieving the most that we can. We're good stewards of that money, the money that supporters and sponsors put into Ulster, that we are growing this club. And you look around, you look at the stadium, you look at the players that are coming through the academy. There's lots of really positive things that we're doing. I think the numbers of players playing the game has increased now. The participation is in every level of rugby, which is fabulous. So, we're often judging the success of all we're doing by what's happening at the pinnacle of the game, the professional game. And I think we have, as I say, I think with what we have, it could be a really exciting next 5 years. I think the financial foundations, we're working with the IRFU, and we can make those are, I think there's a plan that is very stable and a sustainable future for us. So I'm excited. Does the money worry me? Am I worried for Ulster Rugby? No, I'm not. I think we have to get that right. We always have to get the money right. But our purpose is the joy of rugby and bringing success on this pitch out here.
If Ulster aren't playing in the Champions Cup next year, are you slightly more worried?
That would have a very significant impact. There's no, nobody's going to say it wouldn't. It's in our hands, the next 5 games, but whatever happens, we're going to, next year, and I think it's in our hands to still qualify. I would expect us to, and I'm confident that we can. But the issue for us is next year, we do better than this year. The year after that, we do better still. Mm-hmm. The year after that, we do better still. And we take that, we see where that takes us. I get so much joy actually out of watching you guys, guys I coached at under 20s and had an involvement, and I watch you come through. Every time you scored a fabulous try, there was a sort of emotional connection. Mm. All the fans that are in this stadium have that connection, and I think we can, this generation of 19 to 24-year-olds can take us to that place again.
Absolutely. Hope so, Hugh. Thanks a lot.
Andrew. Cheers.
Cheers.